All right, thanks. We're going to do a Trifecta installation now. I'm going to go through some of the components that are in the hub just to kind of show you what's inside of it. And then we'll actually do an installation on the spindle, do the prep, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's take a look at this hub real quick so I can show you what's inside. So you remove this. This is the retainer. When you get this hub assembly, it's going to be completely contained like this. Everything will be together. So before you install it, you take nothing apart, leave it as is, we'll install it. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you what's inside. So this is the retainer. That holds the zip torque. The zip torque is the one-piece axle fastener that allows the Trifecta to install the way we do install it. And if you've never seen this before, I'll just give you a quick look at it here. So it's a little bit different than what you're probably used to. The zip torque has a tang on the backside here. This tang is what slides into the keyway. If it's a steer axle, it might be a D-flat. And that's actually what goes up against the bearing. On the other side, see here, this will be the thread part that'll actually put it onto the spindle, and as it tightens, it'll engage and lock into these. And that's kind of, you'll see when we install it, that's kind of how it tightens itself on, and once it's on, it locks itself in place. Underneath that are the bearings. So these bearings look just like regular bearings, and they're industry standard bearings. The only difference is these tolerances are tighter that allow us to actually install it and set the end play along with this spacer cone. So the spacer cone is a little bit different than what you might have seen. There are some other companies out there that make a spacer cone that looks like this, where there's no holes, nothing in it. We put the holes in here to allow for lubricant to flow through, as well as making sure that this spindle part here doesn't get any fretting, doesn't get stuck under the spindle. So the lubricant flow actually will let the whole hub assembly run a little bit cooler. And then again, there's a bearing on the other side, and a little hard to see. But underneath here is a new seal. This is our Discover XR seal. The Discover XR is completely different than what you're probably used to for a seal. The inboard, or the interior part of this seal, is actually a rubber lip. You can see that there. This lip is called glide lock. That is actually what allows us to put this on really easy, push it on, and then use the zip torque to tighten it up. All right, so let's do an installation. So the only thing we have to do now, we've taken the old hub assembly off. We've basically got to clean up, lubricate, and then we can install it. So to clean it up, let's just make sure there's no burrs that are actually on here. So we can just zoom in on here. You'll see that this whole spindle that needs to be cleaned up, sanded down. Where the bearings will sit, make sure nothing is sticking up. Where the actual seal is going to sit, again, same thing. We want to throw some emery cloth on there, bring her down, make sure nothing is left on there, no rust, no sealant. And from here, all we have left to do is apply a thin lubricant, whether it's a grease or an oil. Whatever it is what you want to put on, whatever you're using in your actual hub assembly. So in this case, we're going to use oil. So we'll lubricate where the bearings are going to sit. We don't lubricate where the seal is going to be riding up on. Now the glide lock is a little bit different. The seal doesn't actually need oil to be placed on the inner diameter to install it. You can actually install it dry. So I've got the hub assembly here. I'm going to get ready to install. So you guide it on. So because there is that spacer that's inside that cone I showed you, you just got to make sure you guide it over the threads and the spindle, and then do a little bit of a guide, lift it on. And once you get to about this point, you'll notice that zip torque that I showed you, the tang that's actually in there, that tang will stop it, and you'll need to line that up with the keyway. It'll catch like that. Put a little bit of pressure on it. And once you got the thread started, it'll get to a point where it stops. From here, we will remove the retainer. So the retainer stays on the entire time until you're at this point. This is when you remove this. You're going to need a 6-point socket, and you're going to need a standard torque wrench that's torqued to 200 foot-pounds. So at 200 foot-pounds is all we need to torque this nut to. So we'll throw on 200 foot-pounds. There we go. Spin it once, twice, 3 times, and that's installed. So from here, to get your 5-year parts and labor warranty, you need to actually use a Sentinel hubcap. If you haven't seen a Sentinel hubcap before, this is kind of what it looks like. It's a one-piece integrated hubcap that actually has a Gore-Tex filter that will keep contamination and water out. And if you look at, this is also an ESP plug. So the ESP plug is what we use on our steer axles, and you can also use it on the trailer. It's the same idea. It's a plug that'll actually just fit into your hubcap. You install this, and this is actually a waterproof membrane inside of there as well. And that'll get you your 5-year parts and labor. Other than that, you torque down your hub assembly, put your hubcap on, fill with oil, and the Trifecta is installed.